Hi, my name's Ben King. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in Pennsylvania, and today we're going to be talking about getting to know your partner's love language and why that's a really good idea to do in your relationship. So first, the overview. Why is this important to talk about? And then going through the 5 love languages, so words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and then the last one, finding out what your partner likes. So first, why is this important to talk about? Usually at the beginning of a relationship, you're probably doing all of the love languages. You're trying to connect with the other person. You're trying to show them that you're trying and that you care about them. You're trying to make a good first impression on the relationship for the other person. I think that's totally natural to do. But as time goes on, things shift. We're just naturally not going to be as giddy to see each other. The relationship usually gets to a more stable, solid place. And it can be susceptible to becoming less connecting, especially if your love languages don't match up with each other. So if mine doesn't match up with yours, a lot of the times we'll miss each other because we have different natural ways of showing love and receiving love for each other. So first, gauge where things are at in your relationship. So do your love languages mesh? Are things more bland now, or have the two of you been feeling more unloved for quite some time? So just trying to gauge where things are at in that regard in your relationship right now. So the first love language is words of affirmation. So this is essentially verbally expressing your thoughts or feelings to the other person. This could be compliments. This could be expressing your positive feelings towards them, telling them a specific thing that you appreciate that they did or something that they said, sharing encouragement and support, and even speaking positively of them to family or friends, especially if they're close by in earshot. This is one of the most powerful because it's very direct and it's a very explicit way to show someone that you love them. You're literally expressing to them that you love them with your words. And it's also a myth that words of affirmation resonate much more with women than they do with men. Men get a lot from words of affirmation, but unfortunately, a lot of the times guys are socialized away from expressing those vulnerable types of emotions. Then physical touch. This is also one of the most popular love languages, and this doesn't just mean sex. Physical touch could be just sitting next to each other on the couch, holding hands while out to dinner, or intentionally kissing every now and again. This is another big myth that physical touch resonates much more with men than it does women. I've found that this will be much higher up on a woman's list if in the relationship there's no pressure or expectation that physical touch leads to sex. For many women, if their partner gets angry that a kiss or cuddling doesn't lead to sex nearly every time, they'll start to associate physical touch with discomfort. It's not that they don't value the physical touch and that's why they don't want it or that's why it's not their love language in this relationship. It's more that it's how you respond to me. That if I don't want to have sex after we're cuddling and you get really upset about it, then I'll say to myself, well, I don't even want to cuddle anymore because that's going to get me a negative response. That if I'm not wanting to have sex, then I can't just cuddle with them and we can't just have that physical intimacy with each other. So again, a big myth there. All right, so quality time. Quality is a crucial word in quality time. For many couples, we'll be in the same vicinity as each other, but we'll be on our phones or something like that. Now, this isn't inherently a bad thing. I'm not saying that, but most couples wouldn't categorize that as quality time. Quality time involves engagement with each other. It's really paying attention to each other and being in tune. So whether that's having a glass of wine together and just talking on the couch or on the porch together, it could be going on a date night for dinner or to go out dancing, something like that. It could be watching a movie or show together, but being engaged with it and maybe talking about it during or afterwards. It could be just sharing an experience with each other. That's usually the main theme, is that we're sharing an experience. And so this is usually one of the more common love languages. And part of it is because it's just less obvious. If your partner touches you in an intimate type of way or verbally expresses their love, those really stick out because it's a much more intense form of love. You're kind of getting right to it. It's very obvious and clear. Whereas quality time, it more so functions as the sentiment, slow but steady wins the race. All right, so acts of service. This one can be one of the most tricky because in a lot of couples that I work with, for one partner, acts of service really resonates with them. That makes them feel really good. That's one of their top love languages. But for the other person, it's almost that they feel like it's irrelevant. I mean, maybe that's nice that the other person did this thing or that thing for me, but that doesn't really make me feel loved in the relationship. And so this can be tricky because it can turn into a tit for tat very easily. That if I express to you like, hey, I'd really appreciate you helping out more, that would make me feel really loved. The other person is very likely to become defensive because they might be thinking that I'm saying to you that you're not doing enough. Whereas for me, I'm just trying to say like, hey, this makes me feel loved for. But I think that we can get stuck in those types of conversations. Again, especially if we don't feel the same about it. So when this is going well, however, it can really solidify the couple in feeling like a team. That if I recognize the large amount of responsibilities that we have and that you're doing your part and then some, I'll likely feel very cared for and considered. And this can lead to a positive spiral. So I'm going to chip in even more because I recognize that you're doing the same. So it can be tricky, but it can also be really helpful for the relationship. And the last one, gifts. So I would say that this is the least common, like top love language from clients that I've worked with, but it can still make a significant difference. And unfortunately, one example that I hear a lot of the times is that one person is continually disappointed, maybe on their birthdays or on an anniversary, because their spouse doesn't seem to show any effort, even when that person has expressed to the other before, like, hey, this is really important to me. Oftentimes, this love language is about the thought. What does it mean to me for you to get me a thoughtful gift? Even if I'm hoping for something that's more on the expensive side, what about that is meaningful? What does that represent that isn't just about the gift? I would encourage the two of you to find out what your partner likes and try to do that more often. So most of you probably have heard of the love languages before in some type of way. And the most important part of all of this is for the two of you to get to know each other better in that type of way. So talk to each other about your love languages and see if there's something new that you can learn about them. We might know that our partner likes physical touch, for example, but why do they value that? What does it mean to you for us to have physical touch or words of affirmation? What does that mean? What does that represent to you? And then just try to understand each other a little bit better and what resonates for each of you. Because again, if it's different, it will take a conscious conversation to be able to figure that out so the two of you can, one, understand each other and then get on the same page by trying to do more of those things more often. Then make a list of specific ways that the other person could make you feel loved. So if you're able to share this with each other, it's almost like you're giving the other person a roadmap of what they can do that will work. And this can be especially helpful for couples that have mismatched love languages. And so if you have different love languages, you'll often need to hear from the other person like, hey, these are things that really help, because it's not going to be your natural way of doing things. And then if you're able to do this intentionally, if you're able to intentionally speak your partner's love language, you're setting the relationship up for near and long-term success, because in the day-to-day, you're able to make them feel loved. But in the long term as well, the sentiment will be, yeah, I think my partner loves me. I think they care for me. I think they're interested in me because of all of these things that we do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Okay, so highlights, takeaways. The important part is being able to recognize and talk about your love languages. Again, without that, this video isn't going to mean much. If you have mismatched love languages, it doesn't have to be a bad thing whatsoever. It only becomes a problem when we don't figure out how to reach each other. It only becomes a problem when we're not trying to work through these things together. And even if you know a lot about your partner, even if you've been together for years and years, there's always going to be more to learn. Even if you know their top 1 or 2 love languages, I'd still encourage you to be able to figure out different examples that resonate the most, or maybe different examples that the two of you haven't been doing that you could do in the future. Again, I think there are different things that you could still learn from each other. And again, as always, if this is too difficult of a topic to talk about with each other, to be able to figure out how do we get on the same page, how do we figure this out, I always encourage couples to go to couples therapy to be able to work that out together so that you can get on the same page for the sake of yourselves and the relationship. But that is about all for today. So I hope it was helpful. If this was helpful for you, if you think it would be helpful for a family member, a friend, your spouse maybe, feel free to send it over to them. Feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And then I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day.